Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It is League on Lock. Eric and Mark here with you guys to recap the absolute madness that was over the weekend. Always is. There's so many friggin' games. And we're starting in the LCS, as is tradition, because we had the absolute banger matchups. C9 gets Team Liquid and TSM to prove that they are the best team in North America. And they dropped both. They dropped both games.
There was something action-packed about this LCS weekend, and I know that action-packed, what are you talking about? It's the same amount of action, same amount of games every week, my man. Yeah, but you watch these games. You tell me that it was not an action-packed weekend filled with the storylines all around. As you said it, the one to jump on right away in the LCS is Cloud9's weekend. What we were looking at from them, the performance, the metrics heading into it, how they were flowing, feeling good. Not feeling so good on this Monday as a Cloud9 fan.
We start with the TSM one because this looked like stomp all over it for Cloud9 after a horrible level 1 for TSM and then a horrible 5 minutes after that. Blabber of all junglers has this disgusting not only buff advantage, gold advantage, XP advantage on a champion like Lilia, and Spica and TSM somehow bounce back into this game. How did Cloud9 not steamroll this game to be over?
Yeah, well, number one, the first thing I think that needs to be talked about and given credit is the mental strength, right? Mental fortitude to stay in a game and find your way back in on the TSM side, because I don't know, whatever level of gameplay you want to talk about. You want to talk about, platinum? You want to talk about gold? You want to talk all the way down to, bronze and iron? I don't know if you can have quite a jungle gap in performance that we had starting in that one from the side of Cloud9 and what Blabber was able to do to the start on TSM. That being said, TSM, again, as we know, finds their way back into this game. And for me, the big problem is and confidence that Perkz is playing with, and the disrespect in some of his decision-making or choices coming across and not respecting the caliber of play or macro choices that these teams can make. It has come back to haunt Cloud9, especially this weekend. Just seemed like a level that was not there, or just, focus that wasn't there, and that's not acceptable.
Yeah, he was almost invisible on the Victor in this game, and the times he wasn't invisible was him getting caught out in these scenarios where, trying to take a blue buff while people are sieging. It's just head scratchers. Like, why are you even there? What's the point of being there? What are you trying to gain? TSM, yeah, it's incredible to bounce back from that early game. And you continue to talk about, across the board, how well these guys have played. Huni has exceeded expectations. Spica, you want to talk about maybe the most mentally stable player in the LCS. He's tilt-proof. He's honestly tilt-proof. I don't know how.
It's crazy how we've gotten to this point that he is the tilt-proof member of the squad.
He was trained back in 2019 that he couldn't be tilted with the Sejuani games.
But one of the things that I think that is important to look at in this one and talk about and acknowledge is when you're looking at the bottom lane for TSM, right? The priority around the Kai'Sa as that pick that they've been going for. One of the clear things that they've identified is the way the game is, the way that the damage is there once you get to a mid-game, late game Kai'Sa getting there. All you need to do is find that one pick of CC, right? Apply that one CC, and it didn't matter. Even in this Cloud9 game that you had a Morgana Black Shield, didn't matter because as soon as that CC was up, well, there was another one layering in on top of it. Or, hey, you saved Perkz, but we're going right on to Sven then as the next target that's applied it. And once you get that passive to proc on Kai'Sa, that damage is absolutely nutty at that point in the game. Big props for the pentakill for Lost and to close that one out against Cloud9. But again, this Cloud9 win, a lot of positives in the comeback for TSM. Still feels like just sloppiness in the mistakes from Cloud9 to lose from the position that they were in.
And they coming off a loss already to Team Liquid this weekend, where Team Liquid looked much like their first matchup. It wasn't one play in the bot lane that completely steamrolled through, but it was pretty convincingly in control by Team Liquid. This was the big Alphari diff you can talk about on the top side, but Team Liquid looked clean in this one. They followed up with that game against CLG, which we'll get to, but 1-2 for Cloud9 the first time this split.
Yeah, and it certainly is going to be a wake-up call as far as individuals on the squad and what they're doing and their choices in playing, and overall what you're examining and how it's going on. Because still, I think one of the things that might need to be pivoted towards playoffs is you haven't had the progress for Fudge in the top side. You haven't seen him become enough of a better player or stable enough still in what he goes up against in contention-wise and competition-wise in the LCS. When you head towards playoffs, that is going to be a major concern for this squad. As we just saw this past week, and as much as we want to talk about perks and other choices, you just said it. Got absolutely smashed in that matchup against Alfari. And then even in that TSM series, in a situation where you should be able to have advantages, you should be able to hang on against this Renekton, especially 1v1, and he absolutely was not able to do that.
Yeah, that's Impact someday. Huni playing at a high level. Alfari. There's some tough competition when it comes to the top side. So Team Liquid looks all great against Cloud9, but when you face the real powerhouse of North America, that is CLG, winners of 3 of their last 4, Mark. The problem is they're already eliminated from playoffs, but I'm just rooting for this team to pick up wins. They're so likable.
Yeah, I want to talk about CLG for the most part, but I do want to slip in one little thing about Team Liquid is that when you're thinking about this weekend and just coming off talking about them taking down Cloud9, right? Well, you get to this part and it is still that inconsistencies. And I think Alfari mentioned it big time. You know, it's these small mistakes that we keep making. And one of the ones that for sure is and it's on Alfari, is his choices in either where the wards are being, placed, put down for these teleports, or where he is picking the wrong ward or the wrong place at times for some of these teleport plays, and that's really hurt Team Liquid, and I think that was one for sure this weekend, and it hurt them in their match against your boys CLG. I tell you what, there might not be a better thing on this. Maybe the COVID vaccine would make me happier, but number 2 is seeing Broxah smile, and that we got a good healthy dose of that this weekend.
Yeah, and across the board, I mean, Finn being happy, Wild Turtle performing well. You're just happy to see CLG. Maybe if they had this roster, the whole split, we might actually be talking about them potentially making playoffs. We're looking towards summer, but they're closing out spring with a bang. And speaking of expectations, okay, guys, remember the preseason power rankings. Everybody talking about Dignitas. This is a team where Saligo, he debuted on 100 Thieves, underwhelming. Not so sure about him. Dardok's been flamed on TSM. Going back the last 2 years, he's been flamed. Fake God, people are mad. Why was he starting over someday? It was only the import rule thing, but either way, they're mad at Fake God. Afro's washed up. He needs to retire. Neo's the starting AD carry. Why'd they get rid of Johnson? Now they got this Neo guy who's a rookie. Well, they went 3-0, and they're looking like one of the top 3 teams, top 4 teams in North America. Dignitas have shattered expectations.
Hey, man, every day I wake up and I go to the mirror, and I look in the mirror, and I make eye contact with the man in that mirror, and I say, oh, God, you're an idiot for doubting Dignitas, my man. You had no idea what they were going to be able to do. Definitely one of the doubters heading into this year. Doubters of a lot of the players individually. You said, I think alongside the many that were thinking that Afro Move's best days were definitely behind him and whatnot, and completely wrong on that aspect. And then many things with this squad, and one that I want to bring some spotlight to, and I really like, has been Fake God and Soligo, right? These are 2 guys that a lot of people in the community in the past have, written off at this point. And as you said, it for various reasons, and various, seemingly shallow, stupid reasons when you're talking about a couple of them and decisions out of their hands. This was something that still, even if you looked at those decisions, you had to be looking at these players as people with potential, with the talent to succeed, at the very least at the LCS level, which is not asking a ton when you're talking about the rest of the regions around the world.
Yeah,
it had to be done here, and these guys have got the skill. They've backed it up. They continue to progress, and the best thing for this Dignitas squad is not only 5NA and the chemistry that they bring and what they do on the Rift, it's that it's going to continue, and it's going to continue to grow and mold and shape. That is one of the positive things moving forward for Dignitas. This is a really, really good story this year for the LCS.
Don't look at Golden Guardians when you're talking about developing and fostering NA talent. Look at Dignitas. Give them time, give them opportunity to grow and develop, and you'll be getting a not just legit playoff squad, but a team that maybe they can make some noise when playoffs does roll around, and it's only taken about 1 split for them to be having this impact within the LCS. a squad that's had a bit of impact in the LEC, a little bit. G2 Esports. I don't know if you heard of them. This new team around the block. We had this G2 versus Rogue matchup that you and I both hyped up because of the first matchup. It was a banger. We wanted to see it part 2 on the Rift, but G2 and Rogue decided, nah, we don't want to do that. Rogue's going to just go mental boom against G2, and G2's just going to style on us in slow, methodical fashion.
Yeah, I hyped this one up pretty hard. I was expecting we would get not only the quality of League of Legends, but the action, the blood hunger. All these things would have been there between Rogue and G2. We didn't even get a side dish of any of that in the experience with what we had for them. So make sure you line up, keep your distance between one another, and I'll hand out your like, refunded hype game token.
This is like you see the nice dish coming out from the restaurant and you know it's for your table and you're like, ooh, nice. Oh. And then, they slipped right before they get to you and it falls. And then they say, oh, sorry, we're out of the shrimp now. So you don't get your dish at all. And then you just go home and the night's ruined. The night's ruined.
Yeah, and well, that was more or less how I felt, knowing that I had the LCS heading up after the LEC.
That's when you go to the burger place.
That match didn't work.
You go to the burger place on the way home instead of the nice restaurant. You're like, soggy burger.
I say Vulcan, flip me a burger, we'll be all good, my man.
But this is just teams when they're close to the level of G2, they get hyped up to it, whether it's Fnatic, Rogue, or Mad. They get this marquee matchup, and then G2 is like, yeah, nice try, guys. Stay below us in the tier list, and it's what happened.
And even crazy is when you're looking at this at the draft that went on, it wasn't necessarily egregious on any type of side, and then especially when you're talking about individuals playing their champions that they're very powerful and strong on.
Larson has Azir
for Larson, and that was it. And you know what? To be fair, in the very early game, and you're looking at the individual lane matchup, he's doing pretty good, pretty okay.
Until he gets killed twice.
Yeah, and then we get to that point, and then it didn't. But the problem then at that point is, well, it didn't matter that you were all good for those 7 minutes or whatever before, because it's all down the drain, and you can't stop this snowball on the side of G2 because its name is Caps.
At least Rogue's able to bounce back in their next game against Mad Lions, which was actually the match of the week, and this one was a fun one. It looked like Mad were ready to roll this game away, and Rogue's going 0-2 on the weekend, but then they forgot about Aatrox, Mark. How are you going to forget about Aatrox? He gets down to 3 health, does Ottawamne, around the Baron Pit, but 3 health, he's not dead, and then he heals for 75% of it with 1 Q.
Yeah. Again, we've seen this from Olaf's. We've seen it now from an Aatrox. I don't know how many more times we need to see this type of healing. It is absolutely nutty, and it was nutty enough for Ottawamne and the boys with Rogue to make sure they weren't going down 0-2.
It's crazy. It looked like Aatrox had the Ocean Soul. It was Mad Lions that had Ocean Soul in this game, and Rogue were still able to come back. But still, I'm going to call it a shaky win out of Rogue, even though after that moment, they definitely got control of the game to close it out. So overall, not the greatest weekend from Rogue, but they do salvage it against the Mad Lions. Then we had the El Clasico, Fnatic versus SK, and I mean, unfortunately, the hype died a little for this one because SK already lost to Vitality coming into this matchup, but this was very much Fnatic asserting, you're not quite in the same tier as us top 3 or 4 teams yet, SK.
Right, and I think this is not necessarily something that should be taken, super harshly or negatively by the community in looking at SK's performance this weekend. Sure, 0-2, it falls in that unacceptable type of category of what you would ever think of when you're thinking of weeks, but you're looking at the actual gameplay and the lessons that you can take from it and move on to the next weekend and improve upon it, which has been something that SK has done every weekend so far, is improving upon the mistakes and positives that they had the last week. This is going to be a good test. This is going to be a good one to watch and see how they respond from this weekend, because absolutely they should be better. They need to be better as far as a playoff picture and all these type of results, sure. But as far as just looking at the way the players have played and what they've been able to put together as a group, they should expect better from themselves in the performances that we saw, especially the one against Vitality. I thought they were a little bit better against Fnatic, and you certainly did still see some of the bright spots for this SK lineup. One of the brightest spots probably is absolutely our boy Treats and the engages that he can make.
Are we done pooping on Fnatic for the offseason signings of Niski and Upset? They're put in a terrible position with Reckless deciding he wants to leave. They had a good offseason. Niski's looking more consistent on Fnatic than he was at times on Cloud9. And Upset, he's not overrated. He's not washed up, guys. Come on.
Hey, we spent a lot of time in North America, campaigning and convincing people that Niski is good and, all the things that he was doing and to give him some credit and all these things. And then we get last year and how things started with Cloud9 and you move on to Fnatic. I'm okay. I think Niski has been solid, enough praise still, but I think Upset is someone I want to jump in and give some praise and attention to, because replacing Reckless, that is absolutely impossible.
Yep.
Impossible to do. And that's where we stand at this point this year. It still is not replaced because you don't fix that. You don't fill that hole with another Reckless shaped piece. You can't do that. You have to move on, find something different and something excellent. And that's what Fnatic has done when they've moved on to someone like Upset. He plays differently than Reckless. He's got a different champion pool. He approaches the game, all these things different than Reckless. He's not Reckless, but he is your superstar carry ADC. He is a mega star for you to build around and be strong in these games. And he's been performing at that level for Fnatic, or at the very least, trying to, when there's a lot of it going on in some of these games.
Give me playoffs for Fnatic. Give me playoffs in the LEC. Let's see what these teams can throw at a wall that is G2 and see if it's going to stick. Plenty of top-seeded matchups in the LPL this weekend. Not just top-seeded, bangers across. We got to start with the RNG versus EDG, because that was first place on the line. And of course, as everyone predicts, Xiaohu picks up both MVPs, does it on a Tristana top and then a Gnar. He goes head-to-head against Flandre, and it's just another victim to the list for the top lane king.
It's actually insane. It's insane. And I know I say insane, and we use words to hype things up and be excited a lot of times. This is an understatement and insane on what's been going on with Xiaohu and how he's been able to play, because you know what? The Tristana, I'll allow. We've seen Tristana mid. We've seen him play that and be fantastic. So putting it up in that top side, just a different solo lane, a couple of things different, sure. But he can still find success. Making the change with the Gnar and the way that he was able to play that Gnar and play around it in team fights, especially. My man, that is a top main Xiaohu if they're making sure the work comes through. And crazy enough, in a region like the LPL, that might be the best Gnar performance we've seen this year.
I mean, you're like not even sarcastically talking about him in top 2, top 3 top laners so far this split. They also got it done against E-Star, who's obviously not the same caliber, but now 11-1 are RNG on the split, which is just absolutely insane. Most people had them outside of the playoff picture coming into this split. Here they are dominating at the top of the table. The team we're used to seeing dominate at the top of the table is Top Esports, and they're getting back. They got it done against IG. It was Syndra versus Orianna on both sides for Knight and Rookie, and the Syndra goes 0-3. Huh.
Yeah, the Syndra pick was not working in this series on this day. I liked what I saw from this series overall. Still definitely bringing the excitement and the hype that you want in these type of things. And hey, if it's got enough hype to bring Ninja along to jump in and watch some LPL, we're feeling pretty good about getting the LPL hype train rolling. It's only gonna get better, right? Is what I'm gonna say for you right now when you're talking about the LPL, because we know what happens. LPL playoffs, my man, the matchups that we're gonna get, the amount of matchups that you have to get to go through in the LPL playoffs to get to the very top. This is gonna be a wild ride, folks.
Top Esports is the 7th seed right now, guys. Top Esports is your 7th seed. Imagine drawing that in the first round. I'm just gonna say.
LCS, hey, man. Oh, man, we got to go against Immortals. LEC, yeah, we got SK and Vitality. LP, we got Top Esports. What is that?
Top 4 team at Worlds last year. One of the other crazy series, Rare Atom versus FPX, right to game 3. They're defending in their base, the Rare Atom boys. They're down 5K against FPX. They got world champion Nuggery, world champions across the board. And Rare Atom, they are positively charged, Mark, because they have the longest win streak in the LPL. 7 games, they take down FPX. I guess we got to start taking them for serious. They're for real.
It is crazy the progress that they've kept on. It's important to remember this is, old Vici gaming, right? When we're thinking about Rare Atom, it's easy to get, as we do, get lost in the rebrand of the power of Rare Atom, right? But it is important to remember that it is the Vici boys and the staff, and most of the staff, except for obviously Coma, quite a big absence. But when you're talking about them and the progress that they've made, this has just been a continuation, right, from last year, as far as what they're building on and how they're progressing as a group. Because this was still something that when we talked about them last year, with a very raw, talent with this group that still needed to be focused and trained and get to find a way to put it out on the Rift in the best possible format. We're starting to see that more often from this Rare Atom group and what they've been able to do. And I think their trajectory and progress that they've made, even from last year, should not be ignored.
And Lian playing the absolute perfect Karth this game in Game 3, utilizing that passive 11 times, 11 deaths on the board. That's how you play Karth this baby. Teleport, revive, run it back again.
It's just like playing the Kog'Maw, and you're utilizing that Kog'Maw passive, my man. Sometimes it ain't pretty, but you got to get work done, and you're champion like that. It's the way it's got to be.
Rare Atom boys, they're for real. Be checking them out in the LPL. Lastly, we had Genji versus Hanwha Life. You remember the first series they met up? It was the Chovy magic on the stage. There was no magic. We didn't believe in magic in this set, and it's hard to put on those performances when you are playing Scion mid.
Yeah, certainly some questions for the choices in this one. I mean, we had interesting choices come through for Chovy previously in other games, getting the Lilia in mid and whatnot, but certainly this was not the pivot that I wanted to see for them in this matchup against Genji and what you needed to be able to do. The important thing for this Hanwha Life squad is regrouping your mentality and your momentum as you get ready for when playoffs arrives. Because if you're looking to go anywhere, you're going to have to go through Genji. You're not going to be able to leapfrog them right now the way it is in the standings. You're going to have to run through them in playoffs. And so you better be ready to answer up in a series against the Genji boys.
And BD showed up in a big way. He was obviously outclassed last time. He played super well in this set. Was one of the main reasons Chovy didn't pop off. But the big weakness is topside, and it has been for Hanwha Life for a lot of this. Rascal and Clid clearly outperforming their counterparts in this one. And I mean, Ruler and Life is an unfair advantage against pretty much everyone in the LCK.
I was going to say, man, the top side absolutely didn't work out for the side of Hanwha Life, but bottom side didn't work out either, my man. And yeah, you said it. It really is almost an impossible task in the LCK to go up against Ruler and Life and find your own advantages.
Yeah, and especially just looking at the laning phase in itself. It's absolutely terrifying, but we're getting near the end of the regular season. LCS and LEC double super weeks. Every week's a super week in the LCS this weekend, so there's going to be huge implications. I can guarantee you there's going to be some serious movement in a lot of the power rankings that we're going to be looking at this week based on this weekend, because there were some big matchups right at the very heads of the tables across all three of those major regions at the very least. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for hanging. We'll catch you on the flippity flip.